Hello, hello, hello. I don't know how many of those hellos recorded. Welcome to the first part of my first anniversary video for Beyond the Divide and Into Adventure. It's me, the author, Opal. You may know me by my username, CR in the page, but you can just call me Opal, it's easier. And the username's a little bit outdated because now I have two names. Anyways, I thought it'd be kind of fun. For at least this first section, I'm going to do some other stuff talking about the fic itself, but I also, if you didn't know, I think the link to this is floating around somewhere in the Discord, but if you didn't know, I have a document. This is my cool spreadsheet. Let's see if we can zoom out, see the whole scale of this bad boy. Let me zoom out. There we go. This is the whole spreadsheet. Here I keep track of a whole bunch of stuff. So the main stuff, this big one right here, is just the published stuff and what's the next chapter be published. So in this case, as of recording this, chapter 21 is done. I'm working on chapter 22. 21 is the next one to go up. Yes, chapter 21 is going to be the next video, or the next chapter to go up. I'm actually working on that one. Actually, let's sneak onto the document. I'm not done working on chapter 22 or 21. I'm gonna add some more stuff to it, but I need to update the word count. So fun fact, I only update the word count after I have finished the chapter. I made a mistake in my last big project and I updated the chapter numbers as I went, and it made my brain cry. So I try to only look at the numbers when I'm done with the chapter. So right now it sits, chapter 21 is at 2,831, so let's go in 2,831, and so it used to be at 2604. I added some stuff recently, so now we're back up, and there's a whole bunch of fun. So this does a lot of the math for me. I record a whole bunch of stuff. Like I said, here's like the published stuff, here's like the canon stuff that's not up next, and I also have some unofficial stuff which I'll be talking about in another part of my video. I have some prequel stuff and some spin-offs. But this document has a lot of math floating around on it, and also it records, who the narrator is of a given chapter, because for me at least, I like to try to keep a balance of like how many people are talking for how long. I messed myself up a little bit. Sorry, it's 1 a.m. I messed up a little bit because I ended up doing chapter 18 also from June's perspective, even though 15 had just like been published, because I kind of wanted to tell that scene of June struggling a little bit with magic and the realities of the situation starting to sink in. So that's what all the colors mean. This is a homestuck fanfic. You know what colors are. So I record not only what chapter number, I also record the word count, what day I started it and what day I ended it, how long that was, how many pester logs, who were the pester logs, just to see. I just like to kind of look like I've noticed that I've been doing less and less chapters. Not every chapter has pester logs, and I usually have small gaps in between when I do have pester logs. So far the largest in any chapter, I believe, is still 5 from chapter 1. And that was because obviously everyone was contacting June and she was contacting everybody and all sorts of fun stuff. And I actually count pester logs by the amount of began pestering messages, because I think especially in chapter 1 there's at least one conversation that never gets a ceased pestering, and so counting it by ceased pestering would just be nonsense. And also I include stuff like when June texted her dad, which I don't think is on this document. It's not on this document. Here's my document, by the way. We're on document 3, and I think document 3 is going to be the last of this document. I think we move on to document 4 pretty soon. Fuck it. Taking a quick detour, I commissioned some art for a future chapter. This is by my very wonderful friend, Imp, who I will show his Twitter. This is my friend Imp. I know him from a different server. He's a wonderful artist. I love his work. Am I following him? I'm not following Imp. I'm gonna follow Imp off stream. After we look at some Riftdale art. We'll talk about this later. I'm gonna talk about this later, but this is a very good piece. But yes, Imp drew this wonderful piece of art. I commissioned him for it. It's beautiful. The scene will come eventually. Beautiful. Anyways. I've gotten off track. But I have a couple different documents. This is 1, 2, and then 3. And then you notice I identify them by their pictures because the titles are so long that they run off the screen. But I don't want to give up my naming convention, so I just keep it like that. Numbers, we're talking about numbers. Next to these little divides here are the documents. So 1 through 7 we're on document 1, 8 through 14 we're on 2, and then 15 through 22 is going to be on document 3. So probably moving on to document 4 after this one, just because once you start getting close to and over 50 pages, Google Docs throws a fit. Especially if you want to access it on mobile, which I do half the time anyways. I have my note here that word counts will be calculated upon chapter completion, and have some fun math going on. So this little section, let's see if we can zoom in on it. Can I zoom in on it? This section. Sorry, a bug just flew on my face. So this section right here, and I'll put some arrows on it. This one. This is my finals total. So this is separated into 2 different sections. One is everything and one is canon stuff, which we'll talk about soon. So there are 37 finished works within this fiction, I guess. And so that includes canon stuff, that includes non-canon stuff. I can't remember whether or not it includes... So it does include stuff like the character document, which is a lot of words, but that still counts, right? So there are 37 pieces that have been finished across the board here. Across the board, so non-canon stuff, background stuff, canon stuff, all that fun. All that is sitting at about 98,000. Probably by the time this video comes out, be more. I'm hoping to finish chapter 22 relatively soon, and of course I'm working on bumping up chapter 21 too. With an average word count among completed chapters at about 2,686. I believe, no, I did not exempt the character doc from that one, and this might actually need to be updated. We'll look at the character doc too. And then I just have the canon stuff because I kind of wanted to distinguish between the two. So there are only 26 finished canon chapters, includes both stuff to be published and not yet published. And I believe, yeah, just those. It doesn't include any of the prequel stuff, which is technically canon, or the Vriska spin-off, which we'll talk about the Vriska spin-off too. Among the finished canon words, there are about 72,000, I believe. Wow. 56,000. Excuse me, 56,800 or so are published. There's a weird... Somewhere along the line, I lost. Yeah, if you look up in the corner, let's get rid of this one real quick. There's... My count says that there should be 56,836 words. This one says 42. I don't know why. As far as I know, the chapters should be identical between the things. I don't know whether it's a difference between how AO3 counts stuff or how... I don't know. But as far as I know, they're identical between the documents. It might just be how AO3 counts words versus how Google Docs counts words. And that's just published. Fun fact, the word count overall, the average is lower, despite the fact that it has stuff like the character document, which is almost 7,000 words long on itself, or by itself, because that one also includes things like this chapter right here, which is one of my unofficial ones, which is about only 600 words long. It also includes this chapter right here. I'm going to lengthen this chapter too. I don't know when it's going to come in, but this chapter right here has the lowest canon word count out of everything. It is the lowest canon word count among everything. It is also the only one below 2,000. And I think that's because I wrote it like spur of the moment. This is kind of background. This is some number stuff, but whatever. I also, it took me 9 days. So the average is a little bit, there's also this one right here, which is 778 words. While the canon chapters have stuff like, two of Rose's chapters are above 4,000 words. She actually has 2 of the 3 highest word counts, I believe. Yeah, chapter 1, it goes, a scene we'll get to later, chapter 3 and then chapter 1 in terms of the highest word count, I believe. Oh no, there's another one that's higher, I just saw it. Now I'm looking. Oh, chapter 12 also got pretty high. No, chapter 12 might be the new 3rd. Oh, never mind, it's not. It's still June's chapter, but that's because it's chapter 9 that is 3rd. Because chapter 9 is 3,800 words long. So yeah, chapters can take anywhere from I sat down and wrote this in a day to chapter 10. Fun fact about chapter 10, despite the fact that it was published, I can't remember when now. Early January. Possibly, yeah, would have had been early January, because I finished chapter 9 early January as well. So it would have been published sometime early January. It was actually written between June and September of 2020. I think is the chapter that's taken me the longest. Yeah, it was the chapter that's so far taken me the longest to write, because it was actually in this little extra document over here, which was stuff that's not next in line to be published. So this stuff tends to take a back seat, because it's not next, especially now that I'm on like a consistent schedule. Excuse me. The nice thing about this is I can just like move it over here when it's done. Oh, and then, so some interesting fun facts. I believe, yes, Rose has the highest average amongst all the kids. Yep. Rose has the highest average, followed by June, and then I think Dave's is skewed because of this one right here. It's so funny. Because so his current one sits at 2,400, but if I get rid of this, it bumps him up to 2,700. Which is another reason why I think I'm gonna fix that chapter. I don't think it has enough Dave in it. And maybe we can talk about that. So we'll get to it. Kanaya currently only has 1 chapter. I've been wanting to write another Kanaya chapter so bad. But I want the chapter I have written for her to be her introduction. And so it's just sitting there. It's just sitting in my drafts. I want it to be published so bad. I have to hold on. I promise. I'll promise we'll get some Kanaya soon. Give me just a second. Sorry, I had to take a quick second to look at something. Anyways, let's actually get rid of this one. Let's get rid of this one to talk about some averages. So yeah, Rose is the highest, followed by June, and then Dave, Jade, Karkat, and Kanaya. I think Karkat is interesting. He has very consistent chapters. It's just how it is. Rose definitely has the most internal narration, I think. Rose tends to talk a lot. Well, okay, so they all talk a lot. I think the difference kind of comes down to Rose is very... What's the word I'm looking for? not eloquent. Someone said it in a joke to me once. Hi, Octo. I love you. Verbose. So Rose is very verbose. In a good way, I think. She tends to have a lot more like internal description and tends to spend a lot more time thinking about stuff. Just in general. I know like the highest chapter count, she spends a lot of it just thinking about stuff with herself, and that's actually not here yet. She also spends a lot of time, this is gonna be full of yawns, I'm sorry. She has a lot to think about, especially right now because we're in the earlier chapters. She has a lot that she's keeping to herself, and so she has to put that somewhere, and it's on you as the reader. June also tends to get very inside of her head, because she's freaking out all the fucking time, or she's pretending she's not freaking out, which is not good for her. But you know, we'll work on that. We'll work on that over time. And of course, there's Dave, ADHD king. One of my favorite rambles. We're getting into some we're leaking out of the chapter about. We're never gonna be able to do this. One of my favorite things in 19, which is have an unusual time as usual, is his little tangent about the nonsense records. These are not homestuck fics. We'll put those over there. He tends to do that, and then Jane, I feel like is more productive with her time. She does a lot of things. Carquette, also very verbose. He and Dave have very similar rhythms in my head. Carquette's is a little bit more freak out focused than Dave's is, and then Kanaya has one chapter, but I can't really analyze trends out of one chapter, although I do know canonically she's also very verbose and is allergic to commas. Fun fact, Kanaya does not use punctuation. Let's look it up right now. You get to see how many times I've googled Kanaya Merriam. Been to her page many times. Google has stopped counting. Kanaya. Anyways, Kanaya doesn't use punctuation. Fun fact. But I can't analyze Kanaya's trends very well because I don't have them. The average burn count is sitting at about 2,800, which I don't think is too bad. I try not to think about the numbers. I try not to force myself to write more or less, depending on what I think it should be. I try to just let the chapters come to a very natural end. To just tell them, shush, 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 it's okay. Do what you gotta do. It's fine. So I'm also looking at I'm just looking at I like looking at my spreadsheet. I spent a lot of time on this. And then also the unofficial doc. So the unofficial doc is a couple different things. Oh, actually, let me start over. Going back to the numbers. So this is my spreadsheet. I think a link to it is floating in the Discord somewhere. If it's not, I can give it to you if you have any further questions. Throw them in the comments or message me them or whatever. I'd love to talk about my numbers. And now we're going to transition into talking about some other stuff. This is going to be part one. I think it's just going to be a chunk of the video. So I talked about how I have, 1, 2, 3. This is up here for reasons. I also have the not next in line to be published doc, which is future stuff that I have written. It's canonical. It's just not up next. I'm not going to look at these too much. You can pause and look at them. The one I was scrolling by is called, here, let's look at the title. This one is called Jude Make a Terrible Decision. I am looking forward to this one. There's also, oh God, I forgot I left myself that note. There's also one about Kanaya. This is Kanaya's first chapter. Like I said, you can pause it if you really want to. Risk is in this one. Here's just some Dave consoles suspiciously large bird. This is the one that is a bitch because it's shorter than all the other ones. I think I'm going to go in and add some more stuff. June look around. Carcat go stargazing with Dave. Rose take a stroll down the hall. Those are the two confession scenes. You knew they were happening. They're tagged. There's Dave meet Carcat's family, which is still in progress. And there's also Jade visit Grandpa, which I have not started. I know they're going to do that at some point. I have not started it. As one does. There's also the unofficial document. I want to take some time to talk about the unofficial document. Let's take some time to talk about the unofficial document, shall we? So the unofficial document has a very small picture of Carcat on it. Look at him go. He's very small. There are a couple things in this one. There are the original versions of chapters 7, 12, and 17. I believe, actually, was it 12 or 17? Yeah, chapter 17 actually started as a Dave chapter. And chapter 17, let's go look it up, is Jade have a bad feeling about this, which is when they're setting up camp, and right? So I'm trying to remember. Or no, 12. Was it 12? Never mind, 12 was the one that switched narrators. So chapter 12, I believe, is, yeah, Jade more than you should. This is the one where they are getting on the bus. Or they're going to, like, walk to the bus. And their rally is there. This one actually started as a Dave chapter, but I just could not get it to work. This is chapter. This is other stuff that's happening. I just couldn't get it to work. It started from Dave's perspective, where he talks a little bit about Rose hiding stuff. He does actually text Jade. That's kind of how I started. Why I went to switch to Jade as a narrator. I was like, oh, I'm talking to Jade. I kind of want to keep this conversation. But it just wasn't working. There is a little bit more, yeah. It just wasn't working. I think I kept running into issues. I just was like, I don't want to. Chapter 17, sometimes it just doesn't work, and you just gotta move on. I think the same thing, yeah, chapter 7 is a sleepover chapter, and that one, actually a lot of the ideas from this one did make it into the final version. This one just wasn't working. So I redid it. Actually the conversation about the rabbits was my favorite one. I worked so hard to keep that one in, because I just thought it was hilarious. Let's see, there's chapter 12, chapter 17, so this one, I'm going to talk freely about this one, because it may or may not end up canon, but I don't know. So we're talking about Carcat get caught with romance literature. This one's super gay. I just wanted to mess with, when did I write this one? I wrote this one back in July of 2020. So this is about a month, this is less than a month after I started publishing the fic, and about an actual chronological month after I started writing. Which I did not, fun fact, I didn't start with chapter 1. The two earliest chapters are actually chapter 2, the confession scenes. Fun fact. But this one, it's really just it's just a cute scene between Carcat and Dave. Dave comes in to tell Carcat that dinner is ready. Or almost ready, but Carcat is reading his favorite book, and because Dave is gay, he asks about Carcat's favorite book, and kind of lets him just talk about it, and it's really cute. And I wanted to be canon so bad, but I have no idea where I'm going to fit it in. And like the other ones, I usually just like write them out, and I just figure out, I just slip them in there, I'll edit them when I get there, whatever. But this one, I'm just not sure. I just have to see how their pining plays out. There's going to be pining. Come on. Also, Carcat's book is based blatantly off The Legend of Zelda, because who can stop me? Not you. Excuse me. This one also kind of goes a little bit more into Karkat, the Chuni culture, which Karkat didn't really grow up in, kind of. So Karkat actually moved to the material plane, the ground, whatever you want to call it, as a very young child, but he did grow up. So he didn't like grow up in the Chuni culture, but he did grow up reading Chuni literature, because that's what his dad's had. And he's a sap. So, and also Kankri Jr., so Karkat's older brother Kankri, does still live in the main Chuni culture. So that's pretty cool. Oh yeah. There's you're pretty sure you're smiling despite your words. Dave is smiling too. He still has his shades on, but it's not like you've never seen him without them. You can imagine what he looks like. Well, not in a romantic way or anything. You'll find this is a theme in Karkat's chapters, because I think he's like me. I think this boy may or may not be in autism, and as a result of that, relates to stuff that happens to him, to the media he consumes, and so he kind of has a social understanding based in romance literature that he has since put building blocks on top of. There's also some soul magic stuff. This is a fun one. So this is Karkat Have Tea. I read a lot of Karkat chapters behind the scenes, don't worry about it. So this is, okay. So here's a lore moment. This is technically spoilers, but whatever. There is a person whose name is Aspen. Aspen is a daughter of Destiny, the divine of Destiny. By the way, they're not gods and goddesses, they're just called divines. Don't worry about it. And therefore, Aspen is the granddaughter of Lady Fate, who is the leader of all of the new divines. She did some stuff in the war against the old ones. Don't worry about it, she's big and important. Fate is in charge of the fate of the whole world. Aspen was an ancient hero who was destined to die very young, and then said nah, and asked, basically, can I be made immortal? And she did. She was made immortal. There's a whole backstory there that I will save for something that isn't a fan fiction that nobody came from original lore to. But in the years since, it's been a long time since she was a hero, she became the headmaster of the one of the main magic schools on the planet, called Central Academy. I have the full name saved somewhere, but I've forgotten it. Central Academy is kind of the center of magic learning. It functions as a K through infinity school. There is a town around it. Money doesn't exist in this universe, this has already been established. So Central Academy hosts a lot of families of both research students and professors. It hosts a lot of research students. It has students who never really graduate because they just sort of dedicate their time to doing graduate projects. She's really cool. She knows Karkat's dads. And also, Dirk, Roxy, Jude, and Joey all work there. All work at Central. In different professions, which maybe I'll talk about a little bit too. But this one, Karkat Hefty, is a theoretical idea. I was kind of playing around with what might happen when they go to Central, because that's just a plot point I have planned. When they go to Central, I was kind of playing around with what might happen. In this one in particular, everyone else goes off on adventures, but Karkat, not wanting to be bombarded with a series of look how big you've gotten, are your dad's doing okay, decided to stay behind. And she kind of talks to him about the prophecy and tea and his dad's, and also Aspen has an immortal daughter. I said immortal, that was really quiet. Has an immortal daughter, her name is Millie. Millie is super cool. Millie has a lot of magic, she's real good at it, she's a spunky little teen, and she has leg braces, or occasionally uses crutches, depending on how her leg is doing. I haven't drawn Millie in a hot second, but she's adorable. And also it includes, so Aspen has, so her best friend is a being named Jonathan, and Jonathan is a creature called a gateway, And essentially what a gateway is an NPC for a hero. A lot of times they take the forms of horses or animal companions. In Jonathan's case, he took the form of a dude. He doesn't really consider himself a man because he's kind of just a thing. But he did take a humanoid form in order to help Aspen. All gateways can create portals, hence the name Gateway. And usually at the end of a hero's journey, they are taken back, their memories are wiped, and they are recycled for something for the next person who comes along who needs one. There's actually a very small population of gateways, because they don't need a lot of them at a given time. And Aspen said, no way, this is my bro. More backstory stuff. Basically, he gets to live on the planet for as long as he wants to, and he and Aspen are not dating. He is hetero and Aspen is lesbian, but they are raising Muley together because they kind of always have, and they're best friends. So I was like, why not? There's also, but yeah, this one's about kind of Karkat meeting Aspen, kind of talking with her, and I was also just kind of getting a feel. I wrote this one. This one's still isn't done. I technically started it back in June of 2020, and this is like, yeah, so when I started this chapter, I was in the middle of writing chapter 4, so I was kind of feeling out what I wanted to do. So that's what that is. I might finish it, I might not finish it, we'll find out. And then there's Rose, Arrive at Your Audience. This was never intended to be a plot point. This is entirely because I wanted to explore destiny and magic. Yes, all divines have very literal names. Don't worry about it. Destiny and magic are dating. They're very cute. And I just kind of wanted to explore that. I think I actually posted this one into Tumblr a while back. If I find a link, I'll throw it in the description. If not, oh well. This is just about Rose getting an audience with Destiny, and then realizing magic is also there. And she goes to ask about her prophecy, which we'll talk about Rose's prophecy in the fic later. We'll get there. And then there's June, Be Somewhere Else. This is actually, when did I write this one? I sat down and I wrote this in one sitting. This one is very sad. So June, Be Somewhere Else is about June meeting love, the divine of love, and crying because so in this universe, love takes a form based on the people who are most important to you. This could be romantic partners, it could be friends, it could be family. She kind of blends all of those features together with a little bit of extra something to present a form of love. Just all of it, all of love, all bundled up. And so in this case, because June is homesick, which we have since touched on in canon, that she's a bit homesick, she meets Love, and Love reminds her a lot of her dad. And she cries, and Love tells her it's okay to cry, and then a lot of people do when they first meet her. And also kind of touches on feelings. I don't know if we'll actually get to them in canon, but basically, so Dad Egbert is technically June's half-brother, because they are both Nana's children, but of course, this is all canon. You know what a homesick is. You know, Nana died, and he kind of took her on as her guardian, and became her dad, and I don't know if this is still canon to the universe, but in this particular story, it talks about how at one point, after Jade found out that they were sisters, she had told Dave and Rose, and they were all trying to basically tell June, hey, Jade's your sister, but they were going about it in a way that sounded more like your dad's not your dad, which they had been getting a lot of anyways from a legal standpoint, and she blew up on them, and of course being 12, so not that much, and then, yeah, Love just comes in and is like, I know you're hurting. You can cry on my shoulder. It's alright, we've got all day. there's Dave meets someone, which I don't know if I'll ever finish. I started this in July of last year. This one I haven't put on here. So Dave meets someone is about Dave meeting time at the edge of the universe. I don't know where it would go. I just thought it was a fun idea. There's also June Meets Someone Cool. June Meets Someone Cool is a crossover with the Taz Amnesty version of the Seiyu. Because Aubrey Little and June, in the context of this universe, are both trans women who are super cool and developed magic powers after an accident with a spirit and then had to be transferred to the magic world. You know, and they both love rabbits. And this is kind of tentatively set after the finale of the fic, just because that's where it fit. But also I haven't written the finale yet, so here is MS Power, Find Yourself Somewhere. This took me more days than I anticipated. It is it is 13 pages long. It is 6,000 words. It took me so much longer than anticipated, and it was so much fun to write, and I may or may not write a sequel at some point. And this one was literally just because there are a lot of background characters. For instance, actually, let's pull up the character document. Let's pull up the character document. Where's my character document? Here it is. I know where most of the cast is. This is a bunch of spoiler stuff. So I have like the beta kids, and then I have Karkit, Kanaya, Vriska, Terezi, Aradia, Tavros, all the other post-scratch trolls. Nepeta is in the fic, kind of. She's been mentioned, and so has Equius. Tavros is a fairy playing Pokemon, because Solix is an incidental spirit, put that in quotes, because basically a town got together to make a bunch of beehives, and they put a lot of energy into it, and then a boy popped out. Kind of. Boy, girl, weird fucking bee, nobody knows. But he likes phones. Nepeta and Equius are both a creature called a Navadon. A Navadon is a creature I came up with. Fun fact, where they were originally a Homestuck fanfic that then kind of got adapted and absorbed, but they are functionally shapeshifters that live on a slider from a humanoid form to a monstrous form. Nepeta looks like a giant, dual-mouthed panther. Think like cat mom. You know what cat mom looks like. Equius is a horse man. He rides around like a centaur a lot because it keeps him from breaking shit. They're good friends. I might actually touch on this in a different video or different section of the video. There's a lot going on with the Navadon. There's like a cool magic system. This video is already almost 40 minutes long. Gamzee's a clown merman. That's it. That's all I have written down for Gamzee. I made this meme for... There we go. I made this meme because I didn't know what to do with Aridin for a little bit, but he has a place. He is a merman, and Feferi is a mermaid. She's a princess. They live in the deep ocean. Don't worry about them. Grandpa has a lot of kids. So Grandpa and Mom will definitely meet in the story. Probably Roxy and Dirk too. Joey and Dude, I'm not as sure. They're a lot older than Jade and June and Jake. So we'll figure it out. Roxy and Dirk are both... Well, so Roxy is a professor of dimensional studies and does research in interdimensional stuff on the side. Dirk... So Dirk is a mage. And in the context of this universe, what a mage means is that you study multiple forms of magic. So Dirk specifically is a mage. I think I actually wrote it down somewhere. There's a lot happening here. Basically, Dirk is a mage because he likes to fuck around with a lot of different kinds of magic. He's technically a bard. He started out as a bard, but he also dabbles in stuff like wizardry and magic robotics. we've seen Jake, we know what he's up to. Jane lives in the mirror world. She refuses to believe that magic exists. Carquet's dads are named Kangry Sr. and Oberon. Kangry Sr. is the seer, and Oberon is his husband. Oberon is the one pictured in chapter, if I can remember, I believe chapter 14? Yeah, chapter 14. Oberon. I'm not good at drawing. Oh, okay, I'm decent at drawing. Carquet takes his looks after Oberon, because I thought it'd be funny. Kangry Jr., Carquet's older brother, don't worry about him. There's Porum, Miss Paint, we'll get to Dave Sprite. We'll get to him. There's a lot of world building stuff. If you're interested in some of like the rules about the divide, stuff like magic, Terezi, feel free to ask me about it. I can answer any questions you have. The House of Dolorosa, which we will visit later, has a handful of members. It's Porum, Kanaya, Vriska, Terezi, Bronya, Wanshi, Kariko, Lanera, Daria, Tazias, Stelsa, and Skyla. Vriska, Wanshi, and Kariko are not unstuck, but Terezi was inducted by Vriska, and then Wanshi and Kariko are both Bronya's wards, so they're not technically official members of the house, but she does take care of them, and so does Dylan, and Porum loves them too. Porum loves kids. Rose has a prophecy, Dave has a prophecy, we'll get there. Figurines, we'll get there. Carquet's native language is called Chioneyanda. It means the language of the whole. We'll get there. It is very round. You just have to imagine what round sounds like. But he actually touches on a little bit on this, I believe, in chapter 14. I know he talks about it in chapter 21. He has a bit of an accent. Because he grew up speaking both Chioneyanda and Common. So he doesn't have as strong of a Chuni accent, but also that means his Chioneyanda has a little bit of a different accent. Don't worry about it. It's fantasy languages. Rose, Dave, and their whole family line, and some of the other people from the House of Rosa, their native language is called Thulas, which means chimes, which sounds upside down and can range anywhere from sounding metallic to sounding more like stones, depending on how old the person is. Madeleine sounds more like stones because she is a directly spawned bell, so the bell tower, which is Rose's patron, their grandparent, a big tower, spawned Mamalong directly instead of her being born from a line of bells. Where thus Rose and Dave were both born, and also are bell ringers, which are, of course, the grandchildren. Dulas is a very magical language. It's very charged. Things that you say in Dulas are taken very seriously by the universe. So, the thing that Rose says at the end of her conversations with Kanaya is indeed a magic promise. And did she not have any actual intention to return to Kanaya? That would be very bad, but she fully has intentions to return to Kanaya, so it's fine. There's some stuff about the main powers. We already talked about that. We've already done that. I've said this in the Discord before, but let's talk about this again. So, bonds. Everyone has bonds. Bonds are things. Carquet can see bonds. So bonds, in general, can connect at any part of the body, but everyone has an anchor point, which is where they primarily attach and where the strongest ones tend to be attached. Carquet is in the center of his chest. He's blood boy. Kanaya and Jade are both have theirs on their hands. Jade has hers kind of between her hands, whereas Kanaya's has her branching off from each of her hands. June is in the throat, right at the base of her throat. Actually, you'll see that pop up quite a bit. Rose is in her brain. Dave is in his mouth, specifically his tongue, because he bonds through conversation and music. Vriska is her right eye, because that is the one which has 4 pupils, so she has 2 left eyes and 1 right eye, so her right eye is her anchor point because she views that one as cooler. Terezi's is right between their wings, because she's a dragon. So, Duh. And this is an outline, which we don't need to look at right now, because there's a lot of stuff in there. There's also some prequel chapters. Wow. Only one of these is, or no, two of them are done. So Carquette and Rose both have tattoos. Carquette has a couple, Rose has one. Rose has one on her shoulder, which if we go back, you can see right there. And we'll talk more about that later. Carquette has a couple, I think this one is also linked, and Carquette Get Your First Tattoo and Can Christina Go Exploring both have podcast or podfic versions on my YouTube channel, which if you're watching this, you're already on my YouTube channel, so you just go look at them. That's me. Basically, Carquette gets a tattoo to honor his family line as a way to anchor his bonds and feel a connection to his family, but specifically the family that his dads are making separate from their original society. It's very cute. And then there's Kangaroo Sr. Go Exploring, which is about a lot of things, particularly how Kangaroo Sr. came to be in Porum's care. Let's see. What else? Oh, yeah, so there's a Vriska spinoff. I don't know when I'll finish this. I started it a while ago, and last time I touched it was in February. This is just Vriska's backstory. That's what it is. It's Vriska's backstory. It talks a little bit how she gets into piracy, her feelings about having 3 eyes. Sometimes you trans your gender right into pirate, all this fun stuff. There's also some more prequel stuff. We'll get to this one. And also there's some character profiles, which I'll finish at some point. And these just go more specifically into backstories. Like, let's learn about Daria. I love Daria. So Daria is a half-human bell ringer. For context, Dave and Rose are both half-elf, so she is half-human. Her backstory is cool. She grew up in the ruins, the rebuilt version of a city from a former human empire. She had 3 dads. She had 3 parents. She had a mom and 2 dads, who are a human, and a bell ringer, respectively. So Dave and Rose's lineage is stone leaning, hence why Mama Lawn sounds like stone. Daria is metallic leaning. Her mom was a blacksmith. Her horns are metallic. It's a whole bunch. Daria doesn't have a tail as well. Daria broke her horns in an accident, and her mom made her replacements. There's some stuff like Theseus is also a bell ringer. Skyla is a half fae, half wood elf. Stelsa is the human grandchild of a divine. Branya is just a human lady. Well, no, she's a vampire, but she was a human once. She is a human. And Kariko is a half elf. And I'll get to, those will be done later. There's a series of events which may or may not be unfortunate, which is just some prequel stuff about magic. And how magic is big and scary sometimes. This one has one about how one of the first time Rose uses her emotional magic, one about Dave seeing forward in time, and one about Jade teleporting. And I'm gonna get to more of it later. There's a lot of things, there's a lot going on here, basically. The calendar. Let's look at the calendar. This is the calendar. Let's close the calendar now, because there's a lot of spoilers there. And that's just the canonical calendar. There's some stuff on there. There are 4 seasons of 3 months each. I'm sure you can deduce what they are. They talk a little bit more about dates later. I think I'm going to call it. So this first part of the video is almost 15 minutes long, and I'm losing my voice. So I'm going to come back in part 2, film another day, and talk about some of the specifics of writing. So I'll see you then. So hello and welcome to it doesn't really matter. I was going to say part 2 or part 3, but I don't think it counts as any parts anymore because I kind of gave up partway through the video. But this part of the video about Beyond the Divide for the 1st anniversary, where I'm just going to ramble for a little bit about the last year and kind of what it's been like and things that I've noticed about the writing itself. And I think I asked a fun question during the stream I did, about my favorite parts, and I kind of want to talk about that again. So, if you didn't know, this is the longest thing I have ever written. It will probably hold that title for some time, considering we are a year into this project. We are, as of recording this, I have started chapter 22 officially. So we are 22 chapters, almost 100,000 words into this, counting all of the different content I've created. It may very well be the longest thing I will ever write, which is kind of crazy to think about. And this could very well go on to have a second anniversary before the story ends, even with my bi-weekly updates, considering that we're 22 chapters in and it's been 3 days. Which I promise is not a pattern. I will get around to doing time skips. But these first 3 days have been very important. It's been a lot. In a good way, I think. I started this fic mid-2020. It would have been, June 2020 is when I started it, very early June. Actually, I believe, if I look, I wrote the very first chapters I started a year ago as of 3 days ago, because I'm recording this at 12:50 a.m. on June 7th. So almost a year ago, I had just come back into one of my jobs after I was still at my first job. My second job had just come back from being furloughed back in March of 2020, and everything had changed, obviously. Things are still changed. We're not out of the woods yet, and I had gotten back into Homestuck after a couple years of being pretty casually interested, I guess. I don't think it ever really left me. I think at this point, Homestuck has proven to be a foundational part of who I am as a person. That's just how it is, But I kind of found comfort in Homestuck. It was something familiar, it was something foundational, it was something that a lot of people had moved on from. And then there was stuff like Friendsim and Hive Swap, and my very lovely friends who I love very dearly, and the D&D game I was in, the D&D Suburb game I was in for a little while, which I still miss. Will it come back one day? I don't know. And so for context, assuming you are not one of the people who I have already spoken about this with, this is kind of an AU I do a lot. I've been working on, for context, we're going to lead in with some context. I have been writing since I was 9 years old, probably even before that, but I think the first time I could remember sitting down and writing out a story with an intentional plotline and characters, with the intention to then show people, which you don't have to show people you're writing, but this is where I have drawn my line, was when I was about 9 years old. That is by far a majority of my life that I have been a writer. And I also was like a Dungeons & Dragons kid growing up, and I come from a family of writers, actually, most of them unpublished, but, like I said, showing people and publishing your work isn't a requirement for being considered a writer. And over the course of my life, I've been putting together this original universe, and it's changed a lot, because who doesn't start something when they're 9 and then have it undergo dramatic changes by the time they're an adult? and especially on their way into, like, proper adulthood, not just an adult because you've turned 18, but, like, proper actual adulthood with a job and bills and stuff like that. And so I've always really liked taking characters from the things I love and putting them in this universe. It has always been kind of my love letter of sorts to both the original media I'm blatantly stealing characters from, and my writing as a not an entity, but something like that. And honestly, it helps me develop it too. There's actually Nepeta and Equus. I think I talk about this a little bit in the first part of this video. I haven't rewatched that far yet. I've only got like half an hour into the 49 or so minutes that are still left of that original run. Like, Homestuck has changed the foundation of the world. Not the foundation. It did change chunks of this original universe. It helped me create an entire new species, which is what Equus and Nepeta are, the Navodon, which has a whole history in and of itself that's not super relevant to this particular. Maybe next year. Maybe next year I'll tell the full story. But I lost my train of thought. Sorry, this is very rambly. I had a very brain foggy day today. But I think returning to this kind of AU, returning to my roots, and especially because the last 2 times I tried to write this particular kind of AU, actually the last 3 times even, it didn't get this far. I think one of the first time I can remember doing this, not the first time I can remember doing this, but one of the last few times I can remember doing this, I got to, like, deciding characters and then never doing anything with it. And then I have one for Taz Balance and one for Taz Amnesty, and one for Taz Balance got, like, a fic published, and then a lot of fics that are hanging out in limbo, and a lot of character decisions, some of which aren't even valid anymore. I have to fix them given the current state of the world. Not our world, but the original universe that this is set in. And the Amnesty one kind of ran into the same unfortunate circumstances that my last big project did. Which, if you didn't know, my last big project before this one was the Taz Amnesty AU. Or was it, yeah, I guess an AU, technically, by the rules of whatever. And that kind of ran into some issues with the finale. And so this is the first time I've gotten to sit down and write something. And, like, I have a plan for this one, and I've never done that before. I've never plotted out this far and then stuck to it. You know, I've planned a whole fic, but not in enough detail that I could do it as much as I've done this one, and as much as I've written for the future, and as much as I'm excited to get into the business, into the fic, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's been vital to me getting through everything. Getting through college, starting college, because I took some time off from school, you know, getting back into college in the middle of a global pandemic, going through a global pandemic, struggling with the life of having 2 jobs, which thankfully I have moved on to just having the one job that pays the same as having both of those jobs. And it's given me something to look forward to. I mean, I still have other things to look forward to outside of this, because putting all your eggs in one basket is a bad idea, but, you know, this is something I can return to. Like, I always know I have this fic waiting for me at home or in a notebook, or, wherever, I can always draw or write something for it, or chat with a friend about it, or ramble, or, I'm sitting down to make this video that's going to be well over an hour long just because I love it. And that's yeah, I think that's been, I mean, it's been a year. It's been a year. I'm still going. I'm planning on going. This is also the first time I've ever had a consistent update schedule. I've been holding pretty well to my every other Saturday, and I've had the motivation to write enough to get to every other Saturday. And it's helped me realize that I should just let myself be free with what I want to write. I have chapters that won't be published until who knows when. Chapters I finished months ago, a year ago, that because I wanted to write them. Chapters that are unofficial because I wanted to write them and they don't have a place in the original story. And the freedom to start over without feeling bad about it. I mean, I just started over chapter 22. Actually, the footage you'll see the first prize video with the spreadsheets actually be slightly inaccurate because I restarted chapter 22 and gave it a new start date. And knowing, so that's not a cry, my lungs don't work. Knowing that this is also helping me push myself to be more consistent, just to get practice. It's writing. I've always loved writing, and I fell off the wagon for a little while, and this has helped me not only get back on the wagon, but install seatbelts to keep myself on it. And getting to, I don't have a huge reader base, and that's fine. I wasn't expecting to, and I don't need to necessarily. The people that I can talk to about this with, I appreciate them more than I could probably ever put into words, because it's something. I'm gonna cry if I'm not careful. It's nice, I guess, to have that, to have something to make people happy, to know that I get to make people happy, to hear about that, to get their feedback, to be happy about them being happy, I'm excited for chapter 21 because I feel like it's going to be not even necessarily happy, as I think people are actually going to be a little bit, ooh, look what you've done about chapter 21, but that's what I want to do. I get to make people feel things, and then I get to be excited about feeling those things with them, which honestly is all I've ever really wanted to do. You wouldn't think so based on my just general disposition sometimes, with the fact that I want to be like a computer programmer, but I love making people feel things, and I love then getting to celebrate the fact that people are feeling things, and especially if it's something that I put a lot of love into, Sorry, I had a long day today, and it's been a lot, and then I'm getting sappy. I had stuff I wanted to say, but I'm just getting sappy about it now. It's just so much, and I'm just so happy that I've had the time and the dedication to give this story what it deserves, and the fact that we've already made it to the 1-year anniversary, which the last time I had a fic that got to a 1-year anniversary, that was my last big project, and it was actually the 1-year anniversary is when I started posting it. Fun fact if you didn't know. And it was not long afterwards that I started to then lose steam, and I think that makes this one real special. I think that makes Beyond the Divide really special, because it's been a year, and I'm publishing it, and I'm just as excited for it, if not more excited for it. You know, I've written... I started with the 2 confession scenes because I just wanted to write something sappy, and I like confession scenes. And then I was like, oh shit, we could build something on this. And then I did. And I have been. And it's still going. And it's something foundational, I feel like. I think this is gonna be... This fic is gonna be a milestone that I'm gonna remember for the rest of my life. Not to be sappy. Sorry, it's like 1 a.m. This is gonna be sappy as shit. And then I'm also getting to share with people. Like I said, it's a milestone for me. It's going back to quite literally my roots. And if you didn't know, this is not dramatic. But I actually originally got into Homestuck alongside my former best friend. You will notice I say former best friend. We stopped speaking in high school for reasons I couldn't tell you, because she never told me. It's fine, you can laugh at it, it's funny now. But then getting back, and then this, you know what? This is also a redemption arc for both my original universe and for Homestuck in my heart, because both of those had grounds with her. You know, we got into Homestuck together, and she helped develop this universe, and this is my way, or one of my ways of taking it back, you know? It's me and my interpretations of Homestuck, and the newer, updated version of this universe, and I've taken them all for myself, and I've said, look, this is what they're gonna be now. You know, I have other people around me that understand me, that I like, and that aren't gonna abandon me for no fucking reason. And we could talk about Homestuck, and we could talk about other stuff, and we could talk about this fic, and then I can talk about this fic and the universe it's in, and I can explore new concepts and new things about me. I can't say I've made any big personal discoveries over the course of the last year that would be exciting enough to talk about on this video, but, you know. You're gonna have more yawns, I'm sorry. But let's move on from some sappy shit, because I don't know if I have anything else to say. So I'm just rambling. I'm rambling. This is what this is. This is, if you didn't already know me, this is what I do. I ramble, I lose my train of thought. I use the same word multiple times in the same sentence because I didn't know I'd already said the word. It happens. You know what, let's talk about specifics. Let's talk about some specifics that I can remember. So like I said, I started with the confession scenes. I adore the confession scenes. They are some of my favorite parts because they are adorable, and I cannot wait to build up to them so that they are the perfect tip of the iceberg, not the tip of the iceberg, the perfect culmination of something. I think of the published chapters, actually, let's take it back a step to unpublished stuff. There's also a chapter coming up soon. I talk a little bit about it in the first part of this video, but it's called June Make a Terrible Decision. I'm so excited for you guys to get to read that one. I don't know when. I think it'll be soon. That one was really fun to write, and I hope you guys have as much fun reading it as I did writing it, which is just kind of a general overview for this fic. I like to try to go into something with the goal of making it as fun to read as it was to write, or as emotionally devastating to read as it was to write. I think of the published chapters, God, they're all so fun. I love all of them. It sounds so dumb, but it's true. Oh no. I remember a little bit better from looking at the titles of the chapters. I mean, June Go on an Afternoon Walk is a classic that has some of my favorite just moments. I loved writing that chapter. I loved writing that one a lot. I remember sitting down. I think I wrote that over the course of like 2 days. And I was so excited to get it out there. Actually pretty sure I published it. Yeah, I published it the day I finished it. It's just the first anniversary, obviously. It's gonna live on in my heart forever. That's just how it is. Rose Attempts Mysterious Explanations, also very good. A 10 out of 10 chapter. I love writing in Rose. So Rose is one of the characters that comes to me the most naturally. Her and June, I think, are the easiest characters for me to write. It's like Rose, June, and Carcat, which I'm sure says something about me, that you can, through your psychological analyzations into the chat. Not chat. I mean, you could do it in chat. The Discord server's open, but into the comments if you want to psychoanalyze what that means about me, that June, Rose, and Carcat are the easiest characters for me to write. But it also kind of introduces some stuff about Rose, like the fact that she's hiding shit, and the fact that she cares about people, and the dynamic that her and Dave have, and some of the magic stuff, because she knows stuff about magic, and it's very good. I like that chapter. Also, Miss Payne's in it. It's hard to go wrong with Miss Payne. Fun fact. If you've never watched my YouTube videos, you should. I think I'm funny. If you like my writing, you'll probably like my YouTube videos. They're not dissimilar. My sense of humor is very evident in them. Obviously, I'm the one doing the video, I'm the one doing the writing. My sense of humor is going to be there. It was a little bit influenced by a fic I was reading at the time called Alternate Universe, which I'll link, because listen, I cannot overstate how much I fucking love that fic, and how much that helped spur me through some of the down periods of this fic. I need to finish reading it, actually. But Miss Paint being in there is kind of influenced by that fic. Although she also just makes a nice shopkeeper image, I think. I think she makes a good shopkeeper. Excuse me. Jade Planet Sleepover is also very cute. Listen, I love Jade Harley. What can I say? I'm a simple gay. I love Jade Harley. Even if her chapters can be a little bit challenging, I think that's fun. I think it's fun that they're challenging to write. I think it helps me get out of my usual brain space to kind of separate myself and go, what is Jade Harley like? And then write from there. Obviously, Rose learned something new. Adorable. Delightful. It has Kanaya. It has Wanshi. It has Gay Pining. It has Branya. What else can you ask for from a chapter, really? I have to say, my favorite chapter title so far is Chapter 11, which is Rose recovered from whatever the fuck that was. I've realized that no one can stop me from swearing. It's a homestuck fic. Swearing is expected. No one can expect me to prevent me from swearing. So I did. The chapter's also very good, if I'm remembering correctly what goes on in that one. Let's go look at it together, shall we? Yes, this starts the Voxeleon, which is, you can actually honestly pronounce it however you want. That's how I pronounce it. Voxeleon tradition, which basically, fun fact, which is a lot of fun facts. This is very rambly. Congratulations. That was mean. I'm sorry. It's a promise, basically. It means something along the lines of goodbye and I'll see you again. which is basically like a magic promise every time Rose says goodbye to Kanaya. And then also the joke, of course, about they've only spoken once, and she's already, I was thinking of you, which isn't wrong, but the implications are there. And also there's some Rose and Dave banter. I love Rose and Dave sibling banter. It's so fucking funny. It's based, so I have a younger sister, if you didn't know, who's a couple years younger than I am. And so Rose and Dave's banter, obviously they're twins, technically. They're twins, functionally, in this AU, and my sister's a couple years younger than I am. But their banter is based off both their canon banter and kind of off what it's like to be an older sibling, which if you've never been an older sibling, is hard to describe. If you've ever been a younger sibling, I'm sorry. It couldn't be me. I don't know. Yeah. Excuse me. I did mention that means goodbye and see you soon. Still, who reads the author's notes? You should read I talk a lot in the author's notes. Cardcat Pretend to Read a Book is also very good. Probably one of my favorites of the Cardcat chapters I've written so far. Just 'cause he's just he's so funny. And also his dads are cool. I can't wait to talk more about his dads. Here's a secret for you. He gains a third dad in between chapter 14 and some stuff that happens later. He gains a third dad and also a mom, because this isn't really a secret, but more of a fun fact about this universe. But there's a fucking mosquito in my room. This isn't my room, this is the office. There's a mosquito in here. But what I was going to say was, actually in this universe, polyamory is actually very common and very accepted. People live for a long ass time. Even humans are still considered the shortest living of all of the various species, and 2 years is not, or 200 years is not unobtainable. Over 100 is fairly expected. And also just, I don't know, it just kind of happened that way. It's always just felt like that's how this universe should be. And then also it's kind of a joke about the signless and the disciple and the psionic, because I just think they deserve to have a universe where they can be happy together. I don't know, it's sappy. I'm a sappy person, if you couldn't tell by this point. I've been recording for 28 minutes. If you ever talk to me about anything, I'm a very sappy person. I love. Would love to date someday. One day. That's beyond the scope of this video, I think. But yeah, Cardcat Pretend to Read a Book is very good. Also, his last conversation with Kanaya is, they're so fun to write talking to each other. I'm sure people out there know just very well how much fun it is to write Kanaya and Cardcat's friendship, and I'm late to the game because I fell off the Homestuck bus and then I had to get back on. But their dynamic is just so funny. They're fun. They're fun to write together. And especially in the specific instance of Cardcat Pretend to Read a Book, the fact that I think actually Octo brought this up, but characters insisting one thing and the narration immediately calling them out for lying. Where Cardcat is upset that he's going to take Vriska's advice indirectly, because he's going to pass Dave a note with his phone number on it, because it's either goofy. Ooh, here we go. I'm just talking about the fic itself now. I have too many big feelings, I think, to compress into one video. Let's talk about something specific. Let's talk about chapter 18. Let's talk about June Takes Some Time to Think. I almost cried writing June takes some time to think. Completely sincerely, with no jokes, I almost cried at multiple points over the 6 days it took me to write. Take some time to think. I almost cried. It was it just felt right for June to have that moment. It kind of comes full circle back to chapter 1 a little bit, where she's by herself. She's left with this impossible situation, where she's cut off from everyone else around her, because they're all sleeping instead of being on the other side of a portal, and confronting the homesickness. Because the thing I like to do with my original writing is I like to look at, and I'm sure this is not uncommon, this is not an uncommon fantasy thing, I'm not like other writers syndrome here, but, looking at other pieces of fantasy media and thinking, what would I do differently? And in this case, this life is always what was always going to be better for June. This is always where her friends have been. This has freedom from a college she never really wanted to go to. This is a little bit of me projecting. It's a break from an ordinary life, and that she has no real desire to go back to, because you don't fit in. I don't think I've really talked about it in the fic. I think I've mentioned it outside of the fic, but I guess even before I knew that this was the reading I was getting, I've always read June as neurodivergent, and I think that's partly because when I started Homesick, I was in the beginning stages of a self-diagnosis. I was still very, very hesitant to apply anything specific to myself, even though while still confronting the alienation I've always felt, which is a little personal, so let's get back to, basically, June has always felt like, too, there's this sense of an incomplete alienation, and she doesn't feel that in the magic world. It's less dramatic, there's more ways to fix it, but it's also still lingering. This is a life she doesn't want to walk away from, but that doesn't mean it's easy either. Change is hard, and especially big changes, especially big, dramatic, sudden changes are the worst. But then, she goes through the physical pain, because emotions are physically painful, and also so is magic. There's some magic as emotions metaphors going on here. But then also, someone comes in to help, and I think we're gonna get personal again for a second. This chapter is just very personal. You probably guessed that from the fact that I almost cried while writing it. So I have yet to move out of my family's home. I am still a relatively young adult. And everything was thrown into the ceiling fan, as I'm sure many people's were. And, the American economy is bullshit or whatever. And so I've been home with my family this entire time. But between the 2 jobs I had, and my sister's job, and my parents both working, and the fact that I then had no direct social contact with people I considered close friends, and the social contact I did get was like once a week. Once a week voice calls, which I still cherish to this day. if you are my friend, I love doing voice calls. Do not mistake this as me hating voice calls. I adore them, and they're the foundation of my social life. But none of that guarantees that you don't occasionally miss support, I guess, like physical and emotional support from family members. And so this chapter where June goes through the sense of, unintentional and incomplete alienation, and this idea of not being good enough, even though the circumstances say, yeah, no shit, you're not good at this, like, you've never been designed to be good at this, you're still learning. And then eventually having her dad come in and be like, hey, you know what? It's okay. I got you. And we love you. And actually, after a couple days after I finished writing that one, I kind of sat down and I was like, oh no. But I'm fine. Don't worry about it. But that was a lot. That was a chapter that was a lot to write. Sorry, I'm sleepy. I'm trying to think of what else I can... Oops, sorry, give me a second. Sorry, I had to take a message and I have lost my train of thought, but I did collect myself a little bit. I'm trying to think about chapters that I like. Let's talk for a second. I was talking about my favorite chapters. I was talking about chapters that I really liked. I talked about this one a little bit in the first part of this video, but one of the unofficial chapters, which I want in the depths of my heart to put somewhere in canon, but I can't guarantee I'm gonna have space for it. I have to see how the pacing evens out, basically. But one of my favorites is Carquette Get Caught with Romance Literature. And just because it's so silly. It's silly. It's just pining. It's adorable. It's just a feel-good chapter. It's got all your classic, there's a mutual crush going on and neither of them wants to own up to it. I got to blatantly rip off The Legend of Zelda. And it was fun to write. And as a fun fact, this is the only way I know how to introduce points, leave me alone. I actually wrote part of this while standing at the door at work. So for context, I work at a mall. I work at a clothing store in a mall. And when we had just gotten back from being closed, so this was June 2020, we were kind of in the middle of everything, or it would have been July 2020, excuse me. It's July 2020, things had just tentatively started opening, we were still kind of in the early stages of figuring out what the fuck we were gonna do, and we had a door person, because we had obviously a limited capacity, and we had mask stuff, and we had, basically we were still figuring out, and we had to have someone on the door at all times, and I did that a lot, because at the time I was just a sales associate, and I liked to people watch. I still like to people watch, this has not stopped, I've always liked to people watch, but I was just a sales associate, and I did not feel like answering the hard questions or dealing with customers any more than I had to, because I actually never stopped working. My other job was at a fast food place that doesn't start, that may or may not start with an M and end with an S. And so I never stopped working. So I was just tired, and but because I was just standing in place, and sometimes we'd have a lot of people, sometimes we would have very few people, but I had to wait there. And so I brought a notebook with me to work. It was very small. I believe it's like 3 by 5 inches. And I wrote Card Can't Get Caught with Romance Literature while standing there. You know, I was standing by the door, and I was people watching, and I was experiencing the opening of a mall in the middle of a global pandemic, and I wrote something that wasn't that. Something that takes place in a cozy little tent that's just trying to bond when you're not sure how people work. That one is really cute. I do like that one. Also, let's take a detour to talk about Emma's Bar, Find Yourself Somewhere. So this was a 413. This was my 413 chapter. It was supposed to be. Obviously, as I mentioned, I like Friend Sim. I like Pester Quest. I know a lot of people don't, for one reason or another. I'm sure Pester Quest, I'm sure they have their flaws. I know they have their flaws, but I like them because they're fun. They're just goofy fun. And I really, really liked the MSPA's reader, or, I'm just going to call them the reader. I really liked the reader's dialogue and this idea of a literal reader insert just being in the story. And I was like, you know what would be a fun way to explore some of the background characters I don't know if I'll get to talk about. Because I have a lot of background information, and I don't know if I'm going to talk about how much I'm going to be able to get to talk about. I was like, let's just fucking do it. Let's just fucking explore. And then I did, and it took me 4 days and over 6,500 words. And it's fucking fantastic. I love that. I love that. It's an offshoot. I love it a lot. Their dialogue is really fun to write. This was still when I was trying out my second set of pronouns. And it was fun getting to address myself in a public sphere with both of my sets of pronouns. If you didn't know, I have 2 sets of pronouns. I use they, them, and z, here pronouns. But most people just stick with they, them because I've kind of been down low with the z, here ones because I'm lazy. And also just getting to talk about Tyzeus. That was fun. I really like talking about Tyzeus and Daria. I wish I could have included Stelsa in there. I just couldn't think of a good way to do it. Bronya's there. I love Bronya. Or Skyla. I wanted to include Skyla so bad, but she would have been somewhere else, so I didn't. I didn't want to disturb her rest. And Porum. Actually, Porum I kind of kept down on purpose, because we're gonna get to see Porum in the fic. We'll get there. We get to talk to Porum. Kiss me. Getting the full authentic experience here. I'm not editing over an hour of audio. I'm sorry. That was mean. I just mean that I'm recording this on the 7th and I'm tired. That was super fun. I am tempted, I cannot say for sure, but I am very tempted to write a sequel to Emma's Par, Find Yourself Somewhere, diving a little bit more into what's going on with Daria. And also including maybe some of the other characters I didn't get to talk about. You know what we didn't get to talk about in the first part of this video that I'm gonna dip into real quick? The Vriska spinoff. So there's a Vriska spinoff. It is about Vriska's backstory, basically. It's not a spinoff so much as a prequel. And so okay. Here we are again. Goodness gracious graces. This is what I get for staying up late and then recording videos. So Vriska, which we've already determined this, but Vriska has 3 eyes. So in this universe, elves can be born with either 4 arms or 4 eyes. A lot of times they just have 2 of each. but it's not uncommon to have an elf with 4 eyes or an elf with 4 arms. Note, these things do not happen simultaneously for genetic reasons. That's not what we're here to talk about. And you would think, like, oh, that's perfect for Vriska. Ooh, maybe. But I wanted to play around with the design, and so she has the 3 eyes. And so her backstory kind of talks about her feelings about, like, having just the 3 eyes, and finding out that her mother used to be a pirate after latching onto a book character, because Vriska did in fact trans her gender. I don't think I talked about this, but Vriska is a trans woman, because that is a common interpretation, and I think that's cool. Not because I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff to say about homestuck and the ideas of forming your own womanhood, and kind of the complications of gender that I am not nearly qualified to talk about. But, you know, I did build my own gender out of the pieces of a society that didn't want to accommodate for me. And so I relate to that, of taking this fictional idea and building your gender around it. So that's what Vriska did. And the backstory, I don't actually have a lot of it written. It kind of took a back burner when I started picking up speed with the content. When I started the Vriska spinoff, I was midway through writing chapter 6. Which is, if I'm not mistaken, is Rose Go Learn Something New. Or Learn Something New. There's no go in that one. But yeah, it's about how Vriska became a pirate and revived the art of piracy as not a robbery thing, but as a form of showmanship and a form of protection from sea monsters, and it's a little bit about revenge. And also how she ended up in the House of the Dolorosa, and how she got her prosthetic arm. I didn't want to blow up her eyes because her eyes are cool, and so I took the coward's way out on that one, but she has some cool scars. There's not a lot of it. There's about 2 and a fraction pages. I'm hopefully going to get that done at some point, either before or after the end of the full series, the full fic. I don't plan to make this a series. I'll probably publish that one too. I don't know, we'll find out. Also, How She Meets Trezzy. How She Meets Trezzy's in there too. I don't know, I just, this fic means a lot to me. If you've gotten to this point in the video, this is probably like around 2 hours of your life. I'm so excited to have you here, both for this video and for the rest of this ride. Happy 1 year to Beyond the Divide and Into Adventure. I can't wait to get into the next year. I love you. If you're a dear friend of mine, I love you very, very much. And if you're just one of my readers, I still love you. I think you're cool. Thank you for sticking around and reading my stuff. I'm always around to chat. Both to my wonderful, wonderful friends and the readers. I'm always around to chat. I like hearing about your thoughts. As of recording this, it is June 7th. This video should be coming out on June 9th, should everything go correctly. And there will be another chapter this Saturday. This is not Homestuck related, but my brain has been mostly split between this fic and a series called Tales from Riftdale, and I'm hopefully going to do a video about Riftdale coming up soon. Imagine me doing the little like finger pokey thing. So keep a lookout from that, or for that. And I can't wait to see you around, whether that's on the internet, in my comments, or on Discord. Thanks for sitting with me. I hope you have a good day, and I look forward to spending the next year with you, however that may be. Bye.